Thank you, neighbors. Thank you, Representative Huot, for coming out today. It's a beautiful early spring day. I for one, am enjoying the sunshine. As John mentioned, the format is that in order to cover as many topics as we can and hear from as many voices as we can, we're asking that you write down your questions and comments, and I will kind of lump them together in categories. We'll ask each question, but they'll be all one subject at a time, if that makes sense. Just want to mention that John is serving on the Commerce, Finance, and Policy Committee, the Health, Finance, and Policy Committee, and the Taxes Committee. So you know he's going to be quite busy this session. So to get started, we've got several questions that relate to some local issues. So there are two here on data centers. First is, how do you feel about several data centers being built? And can you provide, will the state help legislate the building of data centers in Minnesota?
Boy, I never thought I'd get this question today. So the answer, but it's more deep than the question asked, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on this, I know. Minnesota is optimal for data centers. And the reason is that they don't, like in Arizona, they have a high water bill, so they have to pump water out of the ground and cool. In Minnesota, we don't have to do that. Minnesota, we can use our ambient air, and most of them are electrical powered. The ones that are in the ones that's planned for Rosemount will all be electrical. And the thing is about the data center in general is that why are we an optimum site for it out by Flint Hills? It's because the grid supports it. Xcel and Dakota Electric would not even go there if they knew that they couldn't support it. But because of Flint Hills, they have that like triple powered out there to handle Flint Hills. And they can do more building out there. So that's why we're an optimum site. I've been working with the data centers because it does involve us. Now, I want to be honest with you, data centers got a sweet deal before I even came in office, before even our former senator was in office. They got a sweet tax deal. Really sweet. And my colleagues on my side of the aisle, you'll hear them attacking me because what data centers are not exempt from, and this is what I worry about, and all of you do too, maybe I got some in the room that don't, but your property taxes. So they are not exempt from property taxes and school levies. And I have to tell you, with the forecast and things like that, the schools are going to have to turn towards more levies in the future to keep where we are. I mean, there's stuff coming out of Washington and things like that. So my goal is to try to entice business to this district because we have a school district that has a lot of needs. And that's what also keeps our houses so valuable too. Don't think that as a realtor, those school districts are directly tied to the value of a house. A house that's similar in Rosemount, that one in Inver Grove Heights, can be $200,000 difference with all similarities. That's the demand for Rosemount, Apple Valley, Egan. So I know this is a tough area. Somebody last time brought up roving blackouts. Ongoing discussions with Xcel about this, and they want to know about them if it's happening, but they claim it has never happened. I have an open dialogue with all of them. And again, I never thought I would be dealing with data centers, and I can tell you, being in the caucus I'm in, it would be much easier not to be involved with them, but I am, and it really has to do with property taxes. That I'm looking at, I'm worried that people are sooner or later going to get taxed out of their homes, and I'm seeing it with some of our seniors right now. And I need to find more revenue sources for us to be able to enjoy what many of you in the room built here. And so that's my biggest concern. So if you ask me if I'm going to be a party line vote on this, I am not. Now there's some stuff that's going on, and I talked to the data centers this year, just an example of this. I said, why are you on the table at all this year? As most of you heard the budget, right? Everybody's looking for money. Everybody's looking for money. And data centers get like, they're in tone to get like from their income tax, and they have sales exemption tax. They're toned, I mean, we're estimating into the billions in a few years that they're gonna get in tax breaks. And my side is really clear on why are we giving all these tax breaks to billionaires when realistically they're gonna come here anyways. And Aisha Gomez, the tax chair on our side, does have a good point. They're gonna come here anyways. So it's basically, we have the structure for it. But the bottom line is that they brought a bill this year, and I ended up on it, and I don't think it's gonna get any legway. If it comes through an omnibus, I will not vote for it. But the bill basically says, well, we don't want to track any of the sales tax anymore, because the way this works is that they pay the sales tax, and then they apply to the state for a refund, and then we get it. But we were able to track the amount of it. They want to be exempt from tracking it, so we know exactly how much this is. Yeah, it's a good laugh. Aisha, again, my coach in this area, is really not in favor of this. And I told the data centers, I said, this year, why would you want to be on the table? Because you are on the table. I would say you should probably pull this bill, but we'll see what happens. So, anything that I didn't touch on with data centers, because I don't want to move on too far. And I hope you understand, don't agree with me, what my angle is on this. And everybody knows Flint Hills, right? Flint Hills is one of our biggest employers, largest industrial area. 1 second, and I'll get right to you. And one of the things that I was able to do with Flint Hills over the years is talk environment, right? Talk to them more about environment and what they can do together. Well, together, they put in a solar garden, they put in a steam generation plant, and I have to give the senator a lot of credit because we were out there working with them through this. Flint Hills and I, and Greg, when he was in the Senate, had really good relationships with them. It's not that we didn't call them out, because we had to sometimes, but you know what? Now the relationship is when there's a mistake made, they're on the phone with me saying, this happened, this is gonna be the penalties I'm gonna pay, this is it, but that's 2,500 jobs daily out there. That's a lot of stuff, and you're seeing, for the first time, you're seeing more Flint Hills employees when I door knock, answer that door. And so that's really neat. Now, the data centers aren't going to be as many employees, roughly about 120. They're going to have ongoing contractors like Flint Hills does, highly qualified electricians, and that's going to be in the number of 25 to 30. So there is an employment factor. The other thing is they have a relationship, because the data centers aren't looking for like these high-tech R&D people. They're looking for people that specialize in data storage. And so what they've done is went into an agreement with DCTC that they're going to do the training, and then they'll do intern programs with DCTC to get them done. So there's a couple lines here. And I also think the good part about this, regardless what you think, is we might finally get a hotel in Rosemount. So that's one of the big things. So, sorry, you can move me. Wait.
Yeah, I just said quickly. So can you just clarify again the tax exempt status that the data center's getting, where they're getting?
Yeah, so it's sales tax and it's income tax.
Okay.
So those are two big general fund areas. And it's till 2042. They want to extend it indefinitely. I'm with Aisha on this, I got to tell you, because they're going to come here anyways. I mean, the ones that are in sight now are going to get this, but I think we really have to look at the picture again. I think we have to, I told them, I said, we're going to have this discussion, and they weren't, at least Meta was not opposed to it. So that's a great question. Thank you. All right.
Okay, you touched on two things in your.
We'll get it at the end, or I'll talk to you at the end if that's okay.
We really do need.
What's that?
About data centers, I've attended the meetings at Apple Valley Planning Commission.
Yeah.
The lengthy meetings. And the one here in Apple Valley is going to use the same aquifers that are going to be used in Farmington, and if they use it in Rosemont. And there's 10 of them being planned. And it's all coming out of the same water.
So no water in Rosemont. Rosemont is all power. There is no water in Rosemont.
Dakota Electric also was there, and they said they gotta expand that substation by a few acres.
Right, so it's all power, I'm just telling you, I don't know much about the Apple Valley, they haven't briefed me on it, but it's not in my district.
But there's 10 of them being built in Dakota County.
Yes,
That's the key.
well,
They're all coming out of that same water tap.
okay, they're not all water. I'm trying to get that into you, okay? And here's the other thing, the state does have a back door on this. You know what it is? Any idea?
No, sir.
Yep, DNR. You have to have a DNR permit. And so if they have these in plan, the DNR have to be part of this. It's like why we tried to fight the bottled water plant down in Elko.
It's the same water supply.
Yeah, and so I have faith with the DNR, regardless of what you feel about them, does a really good job in here. I don't know about the Apple Valley one. I do know about what's planned for Rosemount. And realistically, it's not even in my district in Rosemount. So, but they've worked with me for a couple of years now, and I think that knowing this, and I gotta be honest with you, the city was really good to me about bringing me in early on this. But I'm not for more tax cuts for them, I'll tell you that right now. So thank you though, and I will watch that though. That's a really good point.
There was a lot of questions.
Yep.
Okay, your response touched on two things, one of which was Flint Hill, the other was on schools and the financing of schools. And so let's start with the one question on Flint Hills, and then we've got multiple issues related to schools. So the question on Flint Hills, given that it's got a fairly large footprint in Rosemount, and that it only processes Canadian crude, what will be the impact on Flint Hills, jobs, local housing values, should something shut down Flint Hills?
So I have been on the phone with Flint Hills daily this week with that division. We don't know. We don't know where this is gonna lead. Because it's not just the proposed tariffs, it's also the Canadians are saying, we're not gonna trade with you anymore. That will shutter Flint Hills. It will shutter St. Paul Park, it will shutter Superior, it will shutter another one in the area, because this is set up heavily for what they call, it's the sweet, not sweet, it's the other side, the tar sands. I'm sorry.
Sour crude.
Right, it's set up that way, and to convert the plant would take 2 years, and they just would not, I mean, they would shutter. This is terrible because that plant has operated very efficiently, and it would be devastating to our area and actually to our region. So I'm praying that we have both sides come together and really have a long talk with the president about how important our Canadian relationship is. I checked with Excel in Dakota, they don't buy power from Canada. The ones up by the Iron Range buy the power. So we're okay there, but it will affect us. Again, I don't want to push on Washington too much, but the tariffs will directly affect Minnesota. They will also affect our agricultural area. So we are doing collateral look to this, and with a soon-to-be deficit, we know we have to look at hard cuts. And so this is going to be, if this hits us, and the other thing that's really, I'm going to go into tariffs a little bit more, with this whole deal with Washington, I am deeply, deeply concerned about our veterans and our seniors. Both are on the chopping board right now as far as, it's not just the straight vet. The straight vet will probably get their services, but we're talking about the Vietnam vets. We're talking about the vets that have been out my age, right? They're looking at what they can do to cut services there. Seniors, I'm scared about. I am really scared, and our Medicaid population is the other one I'm really concerned about, because that's our disability people, and we're cutting them. I mean, I don't think I get it, we need tax cuts, all that other stuff, but these are really, it's hurting Minnesota values. I don't care what political spectrum you're on. This is hurting our values as Minnesotans. And here's the deal, we will continue their services as a state, but we only have about 7 months surplus, and then we're done. And I don't know what we'll do beyond that. So we are working hard with Washington to make sure we can do the minimal services, because, I don't know, do you guys want us kicking people out of nursing homes? I don't think any of you do. And so I am concerned, and elections state how the people want us to do things, and so we have to figure out a way to work with this. Did you have an education one?
Many. So
Okay.
we'll come back to federal budget issues. So, okay, there's a series of educational questions. I'll read them all out and then we can come back to them individually as you prefer. First is, how can our state support education? The second, a commitment against bills such as HF 58, banning learning about racist and sexist comments and similar Trump administration policies. What is being done to secure funds for special education? What is the plan for people with disabilities given the pending Medicaid cuts? And I'll return to that one when there's other related questions to that. School choice, vouchers, child goes to private school, we pay tuition and taxes. And another schools, would you support school choice? And then we have a series of questions concerning your vote on HF 12, which is the concerns women in sports, preserving women, girls in sports. Why did you vote no? Why?
Not my answer.
Not why the Democrats or the political position. How did you vote for boys, men in women's sports? Do you feel it is fair for men, boys to compete in girls' sports? If so, why?
Which one first? Okay, let's talk. I'll do the one, and then the other one's going to be. It's not going to be a long answer, but this one here. How do we fund public education? Public education is actually number one. It's a constitutional issue. You want to change this? Change the Constitution. In the Constitution, like it's the third line that we have to provide every person with an opportunity of a public education. Public. It's not a education, it is a public education. It's a constitutional issue. It took me 2 years to figure this one out. So, vouchers. Minnesota can't have vouchers. Okay? Minnesota cannot have vouchers. We can do things because the feds come in and help us, which is looking at being cut. We can do things like busing, books, special ed, music, things like that, and they should be able to participate in that. I would like to see the private school kids come over and participate with people they're going to go to school with in the future. I think sports is an area that they can participate in. That's my opinion. The way it is now, I'm not for the governor's cut on what we're doing for private schools. I think we need that commitment. But you want to change the voucher system in Minnesota. When Michigan had a different law. Ours is really found in our Constitution. I'm not hiding behind that, but that's what it is. So that's kind of the short answer to that. Funding, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Isn't there a difference between public education and education of the public?
The Constitution, it says public education. So,
That's education.
and it's also child, so there's also an age on that too.
Doesn't require the government to do it.
What's that?
Doesn't require the government to do it, only that the government fund it.
Right, and we do. We fund our public schools. Let's talk about what happened in Michigan if we funded Catholics or whatever. I'm a Catholic, I'm gonna be nice, but let's say we did that. Does anybody know what happened in Michigan? No. Okay, so they funded it. They went ahead and funded the voucher program. And other states have done the same. Because of this line in the Constitution, if we funded both, your taxes are going to shoot up because it doesn't matter if 2 kids show up across the street or 30 kids. We have to fund that for what we believe the population is. It's a complicated formula. I get what you're asking. You're wordsmithing me, and that's okay. That's what you should do as a constituent. But if you want to argue with that, I would talk to the lawyers, and I can get you in touch with one of our education lawyers. Because you're asking about details. I have to go with what I was advised on. And like I said, it took me 2 years to understand this because I'm a Catholic school kid. But the point is that is the law in Minnesota. And we have benefited, everyone in this room has benefited from our public education system. We are like the top 2 in the state. And we have done well. Regardless what you feel, regardless what you hear, we have outstanding educators. We have teachers that go out of their way. And if you're not believing me, go in a classroom. Go to a classroom. Talk to the principal, go sit in the classroom. You will see things, because most of us are a little older now, you will see things that you have never seen and you'll go, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so please, before you want to say, oh, we got to destroy this or get a constitutional amendment, and there's a way to do it, I would encourage you to watch out what you're going to destroy. Detroit did it, and their schools have all failed. Their state is upside down with their education funding. It was a nightmare, and everybody that followed the voucher system had the same problem. So I think we can continue this discussion. I think I'm open for it. And again, I don't like Walsh's proposal, but it doesn't matter. I mean, right now, this is where we're at. So, but thank you. I appreciate the question.
Okay, so,
Just a clarification though, according to US News and World Report, Minnesota ranking in schools has dropped from 6th to 19th.
A lot of states dropped, Sharon.
Oh, absolutely. Minnesota's not alone. The entire country is failing.
Right, and a lot of this, we're still in COVID recovery. And many of our kids that now were in kindergarten and first grade are now in the high schools during that time, or junior high. And so we are doing this, we're working with our schools, we're listening to our teachers, we're watching things, and I get that. To go from that high to that low, we're not perfect. We are not perfect in Minnesota. I have big concerns with truancy. I think we have to address that because I think that'll help public safety. But you're right, and we'll own that. But you know what we have to do? We have to work harder to get better, right? And I know it's let's blow up the system. What we're doing isn't working. Those are the common denominators. Right now, we basically in our district, we had, I don't know how many teachers, but it was in the hundreds, go through the new reading curriculum. They worked all summer on their time to figure out what the reading curriculum was. They worked hard, and that's just one example, because we also changed the social study standards. I'm going to touch on this other one about this, because this gets into a political area. We don't want our teachers to have a bias. Everybody has a bias, okay? Everybody walks into a room with that. I do believe our teachers teach non-bias, not party affiliation and stuff like that, because I know that there are Republican teachers at the high school, and I know there's Democratic teachers. But they don't let that come out in their class. What they do is try to teach critical thinking so they can make their decisions on where they sit politically, and that's kind of what it is. So I'm going to go into the trans issue now. Yes, I voted no on that trans bill. It's plain and simple. If I disappointed you, I'm not sad about that. And I'll tell you why this bill was terrible. It was a terrible bill. Probably not the reasons you're thinking about. The way I looked at this is that I'm a referee. I've reffed trans kids. I would know they were trans. When the kids report to the field of play or to the basketball floor, I'm reffing a game. And I'm reffing a girls' game or a boys' game. And the kids that are involved in that are team. And that's what you see in high school. You see a team. You don't see anything else. That's all I see as a player. And you talk to the kids at the high school, or you talk to the kids on the floor, because I'm able to do this as a state rep. And I ask them, what do you think of this? Every one of them, not one of the kids that talk to me. And I don't go looking for liberals or whatever. They're my friends. I don't care. This isn't the 80s, what I grew up in. That was a terrible time for trans people, or accepting people the way they are. But realistically, this doesn't matter to them. Locker rooms aren't even a thing anymore. If you have kids in sports, they're not even using the locker rooms right now. And on top of it, everybody says, well, there's men going into locker rooms. We've had men going into locker rooms for years. Most of our girl coaches in basketball are men. So I need everybody to take a breath on this, because some of the stuff is hurtful, but the bill itself, and I'll explain one of the things that I got caught up in, it subjected a 5-year-old girl that was questioned on her sexuality to a pelvic exam. Tell me you would vote for that damn bill. I would like to see any of you stand up and say you would have voted for it. Because that's what they did. Right now, and I'm sure, I'm glad the question isn't there, but we have to talk about, early session here. Right now, my colleagues, and I'm working with my colleagues across the board, I don't think that at all, but they are in control of the House right now. They are taking toxic bills and putting them on the line. We had a gun bill the other day. Sounded like, there's some give and take on that gun bill. But where the stance was on this, it's like, no. And so you have to look into the bills. These are toxic bills, so you know what they can do? They can get it recorded that I supported the trans community, and they can go back and they can put that on my lit. They're writing my lit right now for either my recall or whatever the heck they're doing, but the bottom line is that that's what they're doing. They're getting it all set up, and that's fine. But you know what? In the 7 years I've been in office, they have done this to me over and over again. How does it work? Because they don't get it that that's not what people want to hear. You don't want that. You want to know who I am. If you don't want to vote for me because I didn't vote for that trans legislation, I'm okay with that. But know what I didn't vote for. It goes a little bit deeper half the time. And I really want to protect our kids. I really do. None of us in this room, and I've talked to most of the conservative people, no one agrees with bullying. No one agrees with calling anybody out. Can we tweak a few things? Sure. But that has to be all of us working together, not throwing up the stop sign, because we're in a whole different world than the 80s. Did I answer everything?
What is being done to secure funds for special education?
Can I ask for clarification?
Yeah.
What was the name of the bill?
House File 12, was it?
What's the name of it?
We don't have name.
It's just House File.
Trust me, I've tried to name bills and they don't like it when I do. I'm a referee, like I said, and I had a coach come at me and I said, I'm going to name the bill after him. But
What was brought forward was preserving
no,
girls.
no.
Sport.
Yeah, that's what you were told the bill was said, to preserve girls' sports.
But in,
That's the
in,
federal bill.
excuse me.
Let's be respectful.
Yes,
He's just,
he's
actually, he's pretty knowledgeable, so go ahead.
So, but it's not called a trans bill either, correct?
It's called House File 12.
Right, but you were.
I refer to it as trans.
Is a trans,
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I offended you.
right, it's not, so it's not worded that way. So
Oh,
let's-
read the bill.
Let's be careful
I
that we're not dismissing girls in sports. And the reason why.
We are not, and that's one of the things I want to make sure of. That everybody in this room gets a clear cut of this. If a trans girl is on that team, the teammates, they're just one of the teammates, and that's what the kids report to me on. They're one of the teammates. And we are not dismissing the girls. It does not give them an unnecessary advantage. I mean, there is some collegiate trans people, but it's small. And then the other thing that I heard the other day was, oh, well, one spiked a volleyball and it hit her and broke her nose. Do you know how many incidents I've broken up between girl on the basketball floor? I've seen more girls push, punch, shove, swear than any trans person. I've seen people go to the hospital because of another girl fight. So we have to be careful with this and understand it more. But thank you for correcting me. I understand that. It's not a trans bill,
It is not,
but it also was terrible in its language, in which I told you.
it's trying to preserve girls.
That is not preserving girls. That is, I would call it sexual assault, but you would not have a doctor go after it. I mean, we've talked to the medical community and they said, we cannot. We will lose our license if we support this bill. So is this about the issue?
Yes.
What is it?
The bill says, the initial description says, quote, "A bill for an act relating to education restricting female sports team participation to the female sex, amending Minnesota statutes 2024 sections 1, whatever. It is saying to sex, meaning it would stop it being applied by gender, which is anti-trans by its very nature. That is what it would do. It wouldn't do anything else besides restrict trans people. It doesn't restrict it to sex, again, only stops it from applying to gender. There is no other change that would happen.
Oh, thanks, Nate. Okay, we're gonna, this is a hot topic. I want the subject to continue because I know there's people that are deeply into this subject and I would like to work with you. But understand that I work with a lot more people. It's really a minority issue. It really does go down that route. Hey, Don.
How do you deal with the cultural aspect of this versus the political aspect?
I think
It's like 80, 20 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, the 80%, it was in favor of doing the bill, wasn't it? Is that
I
what?
don't know about Minnesota, but I mean, nationally, again, this is national.
Yeah, it's national, and the thing is, any polling you see, like Sharon quoted some polling, when you tell me who it's from, I can tell you who they polled. And that's the problem with this, is that, again, I think that we have to talk about this, but it has to be in the right context. What they're doing right now in the House is they're giving us poison pill bills so they can put them on my lit. I get it. And we just have to work through it. So let's continue the dialogue. Sorry, I got you
We've
getting the
got
hook.
lots of other topics to get to, so if we could be respectful of the people who have raised other questions.
As far as that special ed funding, we are looking at every resource. If we could shift things, really the feds will determine this if they keep sending the money down. This is an important aspect to us. They'll probably, what we think will happen is they'll defund it, but keep the regulatory arm in place. It's called it was built in 1975 that we have to educate everybody the same. It's our district is #1 in the state for cross subsidy. I am deeply concerned because we pay a lot of money. The feds bring in money and so does the state. The state upped this last time with some of the surplus money, but we're in trouble. So I want to fund it. I was a dyslexic. It helped me a lot, but I was early stage, so, all right.
Okay, another one that's likely to be quite lively is, all right, what do you think are solutions to the projected $6 billion revenue shortfall? How do we go from surplus to deficit, cut spending, budget surplus? Why was this not sent back to property owners and state finances? How federal budget will affect Minnesota?
That is a great question, and the only place I heard about it is on the doors. The surplus, let's talk about that and the $18 billion that we apparently blew. So, we returned what we could return to the taxpayers. This money is there because Minnesota pays its bills. That's why we had such a big surplus. Other states did not, because when the COVID costs came in, we paid it immediately. And so we had the money to pay for that. The feds came in and said, well, you got to take this money too. We took it without a problem. It's one-time money. That's #1. It can't be used anyplace else. We gave back, so you can only give back to taxpayers what the state earned in revenue as far as like what they paid in. The rest of this was all federal and could have been clawed back by the feds, and they sent the memo saying, we're clawing that money back, we want it back. Unless you use it. Well, we found places to use it. It's also important to understand both parties were looking at using this. The Republicans presented almost $30 billion in bills that they wanted funding for in one-time money. Democrats, I think, had similar numbers. A lot of these things that were funded were both parties, but we were in charge. We have to take the hit. I understand that. The one-time money means you're going to get a check, you're going to get a grant, and that's it. It's done. The budget has to account for this, so right now we're at a $75 or $74 billion budget. The budget's going to reset. The budget will probably reset about $56 billion. The surplus that we had a good surplus projected again. We found out on the other day that now we're in a $6 billion long-term deficit. We're going to have to make cuts. There's no doubt in our mind where those cuts. We have to look at where the cuts have to be. So I hope you understand why it couldn't be returned to the taxpayers. You wouldn't have got it anyways, the feds would have taken it. And then I got more letters on, you gave me back the money and now you're taxing it? Yeah, so that's a whole nother story, right? But that's kind of, this is more stories, right? This is more to be told. The economic forecast without the tariffs is good for Minnesota. We should do fine. With the tariffs, we can't even predict what that's gonna do.
Okay, let's switch to, there's a series of questions concerning specific legislation or proposed legislative acts, so we'll begin with the
let's do it.
legislature. First is, why did you tell a lie when last meeting you were planning to be in the Capitol on January 14th?
I was. I'll take care of that one right away. This went to the courts, all that stuff. Everybody knows that the Democrats stayed home. They didn't stay home, they worked their districts. I was working. There is no doubt I was working. My LA's here actually that can tell me I was working. I actually was busier then than I am now. A portion of our job, yes, is to be on the floor. But remember, we go by Mason's rules. And even the judges sided with us on this. That in Mason's, one of the things the legislature can do is withhold quorum. What's the backstory to this? We know the legislator, we know it will be tied regardless. The Roseville situation, by the way, who sends me to Washington? Who sends me to St. Paul? Who does that?
We do.
Who picks me to go to St. Paul? Do the Democrats?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the Democratic Party picks me to go to St. Paul.
they help, they support
Once who picks me?
the voters.
The voters, the Democrats.
That's who picks me. You've picked me, some of you didn't, I get it. But the point is, you picked me. So by saying that the Democrats had this big conspiracy in Roseville is wrong. We had a bad apple. And are we gonna do better work next time? Oh, we are. I mean, I don't know why, they came and looked at my house where I was living. So I mean, it was like, but yeah, that's what stemmed from it. On next Thursday, we are projected to be in a tie again. We had to work those details out because what you will see is what you're seeing on the floor right now. I don't like it. We had 4 bills that actually passed the floor that were bipartisan that we got off with total green votes. We need to work things out. I'm one of those ones that the Republicans like. I mean, we're talking about tons of stuff, which I hope to bring up today. But the point is that we need to work together. We need rules about that, what that looks like, the engagement. They didn't want that, and they would have never got anything done. And I got to tell the current speaker did a good job because she was trying to, and remember, both parties have very extremists on both sides, extremely extremist on both sides. And they kept pushing back saying, no, we can't do this, don't work with them. But here's the deal, the House is one body, the Senate's another, and the governor's another. And so this stuff could have easily, I mean, we don't want to do that. We don't want to send stuff off the floor that's going to get vetoed. That's not right. Let's work through it where they got the whole House support. We can strong arm the governor, get the Senate on board. It's going to be a very, very, very interesting session. Stay tuned because this is going to be interesting. So anyways.
You may have just addressed this one, which is with the legislature likely to be 67 in the near future, where do you see the most opportunity to pass bills with the 68th vote, which would have to cross party lines?
Yep, we need a budget. Plain and simple, we need a budget we can agree to. I'm already working with some Republicans on this. I was given direction by our leadership to do such. I think that we need to, and again, I get along with the other side very well. We're going to have we're going to have core disagreements, but there's many things that we agree to, and they identify that with me that I am that, and I'm hoping that we'll see a budget agreement reflecting the Minnesota priorities, disability, things like that. But you know, you're going to hear some pretty interesting thing, and most of the stuff now will be done in committee. Committees will be tied, and they will alternate chairs. And so with that being said, we won't get a bill to the floor unless it clears committee. And that's really going to be interesting to watch. But I think we can do it. I am optimistic. There are a lot of people that are good people on both sides. And you know what? It's not always going to be my way. And I have to accept that. So. Okay.
Can you provide an update on the homeowner association bills in the legislature?
There's 2. Both of them are centered around insurance. Homeowner associations are a pain in the butt. Anybody that's been in one, our president is here. Sorry, Ron, I threw you under the bus there. Well, I love Ron because we've never had a meeting. And he's never assessed us either, so that's good. Homeowner associations have come, I mean, they're under attack because how many of you live in them? How many live in condo association, kind of like? Okay, so what we're having right now is we're having a problem with insurance, right? We are looking at that because you can get insurance, but it's gonna lift your rates. Like, they're gonna have to do the common rates across the board. And so we need to, we have a thing called reinsurance for healthcare. This is one of the things we're looking at. How do we pay for it is another thing. So this is an ongoing thing. Is anybody here from the Mike Elliott project? They didn't show up today. Okay. That's another thing with builders and associations and stuff where, and another place I'm not gonna agree with my party on, they wanna create more housing, more high density housing. And we need housing, there's no doubt in my mind, but they want cities to step out. And that basically let the builders kind of take over. No. Plain, simple, straightforward. Cities are there for a reason. We don't want to have to build out an infrastructure with our tax dollars to support humongous buildings. I think there's hope with what's going on in St. Paul, Minneapolis of converting some of those offices over to housing. Those are things we should be focused on. I think we're doing really well in Rosemount with a good balance. Again, I don't mean to pick on Rosemount, but Egan's doing the same thing. Apple Valley is too. So I think I'm a big on local control. I'm real big on local control because they have to be accountable to you just as I do. And I would rather shift it down the way to the counties and municipalities.
Okay, what is
What
your,
were the two HOA
They're both centered around insurance.
insurance, and what is the distinction?
One's I think has reinsurance on it. The other one has it out of the general fund.
Is there any discussion about insurance companies doubling the evaluation of properties? So the homeowner ends up picking up more of the insurance?
Now that you bring it up, I think one of them has that in the bill.
Our HOA was subjected to an insurance broker doubling our evaluation on our properties, which is causing a great strain on our unit owners.
Yep.
And, unless we're all lawyers, we can't go after that. So is that part
Well,
of the
and it costs you to hire a lawyer.
It would.
Yeah.
We can't afford that because
Right.
we're paying insurance.
No, well, and let's put evaluations on the table across the board because I think it's in one of the bills. So you put evaluations on there. I mean, I would love my tax evaluation to be my true value of my
Right.
house, man. That would be great, but it's not. Market really determines what it is. Market is sliding right now. I have a house that's listed for 3 months over in West St. Paul. I'm not moving it. And the bottom line is that we have trouble with that. And I think that evaluation now, again, it's a number of factors, and evaluation also has market value in there. But here's the other thing. I'm worried about tariffs again. I'm going to go back to it. They do it, a lot of those evaluators do it on building costs and stuff like that. A lot of our wood comes out of Canada. We're not set up in the US to do all the wood production. We have the resources, no arguments there, but it's like we're gonna have a problem here because we have to get back into milling and stuff where they were able to do it quick, and I think shingles too. So that's the other thing that is really a problem. And then there's just a number of things, and I know I'm going 100 miles an hour, but I hope one of those passes so it favors our homeowners. So, because again, not only schools, but now you have a humongous insurance thing that's knocking you out of your home. And I gotta be honest with you, I couldn't sell that house if it had a humongous insurance, a big HOA on it. First time I seen it this year with an HOA higher than what the mortgage payment would be. So, yeah. Okay.
what is your position on the idea of delayed implementation of paid family leave?
Oh, thank you for bringing this up. First of all, how many of you people know much about the paid family leave, sick and safe time? Okay. So this bill, or several bills, we need to do something about it. We're not going to delay it. That's what I was told last week, because this is one of the conversations I'm in with the Republicans. And the Republicans don't want to delay it either. There's going to be a bill on the floor Monday just to get us to vote against delaying it. And I've been working with the chamber and working with businesses to see what really we need to tweak in the bill. This is a big affordability, and employees are going to help pay for this too. So it's going to be similar to your work comp and your unemployment. And so we've seen other states that this has worked really well in. I'm skeptically optimistic about it, but we're going to have to tweak it. I will not be voting for the bill this next week. I want to see us go back to the table and look at what really do we need to change for businesses. Because right now, I think we exclude, even the other side excludes a lot of businesses. I mean, a hairdresser that rents a chair will never benefit from this, but yet we're going to have her pay. So we need to look at them closely. Same with them paying unemployment. They can't collect unemployment if you're an owner. So there's things that we didn't do right here. And our school district, that's another one that has an issue with it, because they have to pay bus drivers unemployment in the summer, so they keep them. But enable for the bus driver to get there, they can offer them a job like cleaning desk or whatever it is at the school. But the way the law is written is not good, because if the bus driver turns them down, they still get the unemployment. Where if you work for a normal employer, you know that if you get offered another job, you have to take it or you don't get your unemployment. So there's things we have to tweak, and why we put that in that bill, I don't know to this day. So more to be told on this one too. Remember, everything's liquid right now. Fluid.
Do you support the Safety Online Act? Do you support the law for safety of scuba diving operations?
Yes, the scuba one, big time. It was a good friend of ours that in Apple Valley that happened. Basically, she was having her weeds cleaned out, and the guy died on her property. I'm a scuba diver. Well, not anymore, but I was. But yeah, you need the training. And they were just putting these young guys through it, and it's cool. I mean, it's cool to breathe underwater, but there's more to it than that. You can drown in 3 feet of water and get the bends, believe it or not. And that's what was happening. So totally support it. It's Dave Baker's bill, good Republican. Dave Baker's bill, I'm either on it or going to be on it. Sam?
If you're not on it, I will.
Yep, it's one of the Baker bills, and that one I can go on without problem. And what was the other,
Safety Online Act.
Yep, we got to be careful with this, in the sense that a lot of free speech, right? I think we can control our kids. I think we should do more to control our kids going online and limit that. I think that Meta has to be held accountable, as well as Google and all the other ones. I'm all for regulating the heck out of them in this space, because, someone was telling me last night, they said, yeah, everybody goes to a counselor now, and there's nothing wrong with counselors, but I used to just go out with a group of girls, and that was my counselor, right? Kids have to know how to engage. They have to know how to be social. That's how our system works. That's how our jobs work. We need to do this, and this is where we all can get involved. Go ahead, take away. Isn't it great what Rosemount did this year? You can't bring your cell phone into class. You have to hang it up. You're seeing more schools do this. Let's do it more at home.
Okay, what can we do to bring down the number of crashes involving older drivers and increase safety on our Minnesota roads?
Nothing. I'm almost an older driver. I'm not in favor of this at all. Where's my nurse? I saw her walk in. There you are. Okay, so the nurses, the Emergency Nurses Network, ENA, tell me what I'm missing here. Emergency
Nurses Association.
Emergency nurse, and these are all former colleagues of mine too. Brought me an interesting bill a few years ago, and it's actually one I want you guys to discuss, because it does go to a certain level with our seniors and their driving. As nurses, they see this a lot, right? And so should you at one stage in your life, or if you have a hiccup, should you be evaluated by a physician for cognitive, if you're out there driving and you don't know what a stop sign is, or you know what it is once you went through it, I've done this already, and I'll be 60 this year. So I just think this has some legway, but I know that the seniors will probably push back because of fear. This is why we need more public transportation, but there is going to be a day that all of us, that my son's over here, that he'll have to take away my keys. But it's not one I'm looking forward to. It's not one any of us look forward to. So I had a friend that had to do it this year to a parent after they found him in a cornfield up north. Yeah, so we need to talk about this together. She's a great contact for this because it involves all of us and how this moves forward. Safety on the streets is important. That's my background, right? And I've seen some terrible situations where this has not turned out well. She definitely has in the ER. So I would be opening, I want to leave the door open for constituent feedback on this because I will probably be the chief author of this bill, but I want good input.
In Ireland, when you're 80, they take away your license.
I think you can drive drunk in Ireland.
Not if you're 80.
State of Minnesota failure to audit and strip millions/billions of dollars to fraud.
Good question. Let's talk about our neighbor here in Rosemount that seemed to walk away with a lot of money, right?
Oh, yes.
She's in court this last week. There is no space for fraud in government. If there's government, people are going to find a way to take advantage of government. They do it all the time. In her situation, which really ticks me off, is we took them to court. And a Ramsey County judge said, start the program back up.
Yes.
So we caught this, but we were ordered to give them more money. This is a true sin, because that's money we probably could have used very well for disabled, for kids in other schools, or other things that we need to look for. But yeah, that is a terrible situation. I have always been big in this area. I blew up a division because I saw fraud. The EMSRB, I saw fraud in that. I blew it up, and I got it done in 1 year, which is unheard of. And then basically started an agency that reports right to the governor, because there's going to be money pushed through there because we got to fund EMS. But I wanted to make sure that this could never happen, because when you make that hurdle, we have access to go into government records, right? We can go after any agency and look at what they got, and that's not where we see it. We see it when the private sector comes in and someone's taken advantage of the checkbook with government. And so I think it was great that Lisa Damath put Kristen Robbins, who's really a smart person, is the chair of the Waste, Fraud, and Abuse Committee. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can find, because this is, you shouldn't be making millions off government. And I bet you we'll find something. But again, these things are so orchestrated well that they're hidden from government too. And so I hope we find something that we can I hope we find more than something. I mean, if it's out there, we should find it. So I think it's very clear on how I feel about stealing government money.
Okay, we've talked about the senior population. This question is, what efforts are being done to engage teens and adults under 40 to be involved?
With the senior population?
No, and we talked about seniors and driving, but this is the other side of the spectrum. What efforts are being done to engage teens and adults under 40 to be involved?
Who did this question?
Involved in what?
Doesn't say, I read it.
Oh, you did?
verbatim.
What was your?
Well, I go to these meetings and I see everybody that kind of looks like me. I'm wondering, are where are we helping?
Thank you. And that's a great question. I don't go to the Republican side, but I know the Democratic side in my district has now grown to like 3 times more than it was in the 4 months ago. Young people. You're seeing more young people in the room here. I know, and I've had these discussions with Republicans too. They have young people that are very engaged with them too. And so we have to do more. It can't just be us, right? It can't be. It's not us yet, because I'm not 60 yet, but we have to do more about getting them in the room. They definitely want power, and we can't be afraid to let that power go there, right? And I actually, because my staff, Sam is the person that probably you talk to more than you talk to me, because he's the one that is my staff. But that's the age of my staff. That's the age of all our staff. And it's fun to see them engaged, because one of my campaign managers this year was engaged. And it's so great to have that, because it brings in a different perspective. We went back to the question about why I voted one way on a bill. I have that connection with that generation. I had 3 student campaign managers this year from the high school that I consulted with on this question, and then they got me into more students that said, hey, he's just looking for information. Do you guys feel like you can talk to him? And so it's having their legislator also engage them, because then that gives them empowerment regardless what side of the aisle. I love it when young Republicans come in and talk to me, because their perspective is totally different than what I thought it would be. It's the younger Republicans are actually really interesting to listen to. So we also have to do it, because here's the other problem, is we can't keep getting engaged in the arguments and dispute, because they look at us and they go, why would I ever want to do that? And they got a point. So.
All right, we are running a little close to time because we have to restore the room and be out of here by 12:45. So these are the last 2 questions. We're broadening out back to federal issues. And these are interrelated questions. What is the plan for people with disabilities given the pending Medicaid cuts? And how many people who are on Medicaid 100% long-term care subject to eviction with Medicaid funds frozen?
I think we touched on this a little bit earlier. We don't know yet. We can't answer the question, which if a politician can't talk, we're in trouble, because I can't talk. I really can't answer this, because discussions are happening. I'm on one of the committees that this touches, the health committee. It's Chair Bierman is in Apple Valley. So we've had these discussions, and we need to figure this out. I mean, like I said, if we're totally cut off tomorrow, we can probably make it into the summer, but after that, it's going to be tough. And again, it's not us that want to kick them out of the homes. It's not the nursing home owners. It's this, that. But if they can't pay staff and they can't pay to keep the lights on, it creates a humongous problem, because now it's an unsafe place, right? And Medicaid dollars are not, I mean, people are not getting rich on Medicaid dollars. In Minnesota, we pay more because we have the provider tax that we put back to Medicaid people. Wisconsin pays basically 25 cents on the dollar. We pay about 36 cents on the dollar for Medicaid services. It's not a lot, but it's better than not making anything, and they're real tough services. Brian?
Being that the funds have been frozen and there hasn't been anybody talking about when they might resume, wouldn't a moratorium on foreclosures and evictions be in order?
That's something maybe we can look at, Brian. That's a good point. I'll talk to housing on that one, because that might be what we have to do, but I got to tell you who's going to come at us next, right? All of a sudden, Bunny Foo-Foo, Mr. Banker, comes in the door and he wants to move the house. But the problem is with that, the truth is that no one's going to buy that house, because the federal workforce, and regardless how you feel about this, the federal workforce is huge. And I know listening to what they want to do a lot of this in AI. So when you have to make a call to the IRS, you're going to get a robot. Good or bad, but the truth is that those are workers that they stimulate our economy. And without them, it's going to be a very interesting time, because we're going to be in a mini level crunch here. So again, stay tuned. I wish I can answer that. All right. I'm going to pick on you because I saw your sweatshirt. Why did I vote against the law the other day for stand your ground?
For what?
Stand your ground.
Oh.
You didn't know I did it, did you?
I knew you voted the other way, yeah.
Yep. Stand your ground in Minnesota has been an ongoing debate. I personally have now taken the class for carry. I learned a lot. I learned that people that carry, that go through the process, are very protective over that permit, because it's a privilege. And so I learned a heck of a lot, and my instructor and I had a long talk about this. And I think we can talk more about this, but that particular bill was based on a Supreme Court case that just came out. What happened, and these are always interesting subjects, is that it was on the light rail, and a guy, it sounds like there was a verbal dispute going on, and the one guy had a pocket knife, he pulled it out and showed it to the guy. Then he put it back and put it in his pocket, walked off the train. The guy that was in the case, B, pulled a machete out of his backpack, pursued the guy. And basically, stand your ground in Minnesota is you have to retreat if you can. And the big thing, if that happens to you, you're gonna have to prove why you couldn't retreat, which, okay. But in this case, one thing, and anybody that I've talked to that has a permit, they all know that you shouldn't pursue somebody. You should try to, and I don't believe anybody that's carrying a permit right now goes out every day thinking they're gonna shoot somebody. They protect it, and you don't pursue somebody. And so I had trouble with this, but I think you'll hear more about it this year. So it'll be an interesting year for some of the gun stuff, because again, we're working together. And so, and we'll see where it goes. But you might not agree with me, but that's okay. That's kind of where it is. So, any other hot topics? Bill, our commissioner, Bill.
Just one comment on Tuesday, property tax statements will be mailed. And if you want to get them real efficiently, go online and they'll go the electronic way. Just on a side note, on Medicare, Medicaid, in Minnesota, 40% of the nursing home population is on Medicaid. So if it's cut, they would fall to the county. So we're doing a lot of work, both at federal, state level. The numbers that are being thrown out as far as cuts just don't work.
We get $2 billion a month from the feds to, okay, this is a thing that I get ticked off about. And I'm not gonna let our district slip from this either, because I have another thing to tell you about. We get $2 billion a month from the feds. We pay in like $8 billion a month. Minnesota's always been that way. Now I'll raise the bar here. You in this district pay in like 3 times more than we get back in this district. So that's always been a bone of contention for me. And I always come back and say, there's no doubt that the suburbs fund the state. They do. A lot of your money goes up to the Iron Range and things like that. And they forget that. They think that we're just a bunch of city folk that don't have any idea that we have tons of money coming out of our pockets. So those are things that we have to change the attitude on. But Bill's right. If that $2 billion a month gets cut, that's a big hit. And so in that, we do hand it down to the counties, and you do. There's some property tax stuff that you guys use that to pay with too. Yeah.
Right now, we receive $56 million at the county. It's 15% of our budget, but it's 94% of that money is all health and human service. So those in need, seniors, new mom type programs, etc. That's the impact to the county.
That's what you're going to see cut. Bill just alluded to it. Is stuff, programs like that. That training our families, doing things like that, doing good work. And unfortunately, we're going to be based. Ron.
Should our legislators be allowed to carry guns on the floor?
No. I don't think that we should have guns at the Capitol.
But they do right now.
They have long guns over my head. And all that is
pistols in
no, but they do. I would say a good portion of legislators have them. A good portion on one. There's Democrats that carry, but I think that it's the only state building, in like one of the only ones in the country that allow this. I think that we're right now in negotiations to say no guns in the Capitol. Because we want, it's just like my basketball stuff. we want people to come there, they can have dialogue, they can protest, but we don't want them to feel like that's not a safe place. And so I get concerned. I mean, there's some people that had some big dialogue with me, and it's interesting. So, okay.
Okay, we are out of time, and I thank you all for coming. Thank you, Representative Huot, for taking the time to meet with us today. Hope to see you all soon.
I'm here for a few minutes, so.